Charlie Munger once said the first 100,000 is a bitch, but you gotta do it. And he was right. Except he left out the best part. After that first brutal 100,000, everything gets easier. Not because you suddenly get smarter or luckier, but because math starts working in your favor instead of against you. I'm Ryan, and today I'm going to show you why everyone who quits before hitting 100,000 never understands what they missed. Because the game completely changes after that milestone, and once you see the numbers, you'll never look at saving money the same way again. And if you're someone who's been saving for years and you're sitting somewhere between 0 and 100,000, wondering if this is ever going to be worth it, make sure you stick around because I'm about to validate every sacrifice you've made and show you exactly when your life is about to get significantly easier. Let's talk about why that first 100,000 is so brutally difficult. Because understanding this is crucial to not giving up halfway through. When you're starting from 0, every single dollar in your investment account is a dollar you personally earned and saved. There's no momentum, there's no compound interest doing any heavy lifting. It's just you, grinding away, month after month, watching your account balance climb at what feels like a glacial pace. Let's say you're disciplined enough to save $800 a month. That's not easy, by the way. For most people making $50,000 to $70,000 a year, saving $800 a month requires real sacrifice. That's cooking at home instead of eating out. That's driving your current car for another 3 years instead of upgrading. That's saying no to weekend trips and expensive hobbies and all the things your friends are doing because they're not thinking about their financial future. So you do all of this. You make the sacrifices. You automate the transfers. And at the end of year 1, you check your account and you've got about $10,000. Congratulations! You gave up a year of fun for the price of a decent used car. Year 2 rolls around, you keep grinding, and now you're at 21,000. Still not enough to retire on. Still not changing your life in any meaningful way. You're still going to work every day, still living in the same apartment, still driving the same car. By year 5, if you've been incredibly consistent, you're looking at around $60,000. That's 5 years of sacrifice. 5 years of saying no. 5 years of watching your friends take vacations while you're maxing out your Roth IRA. And for what? $60,000. That's nice, that's better than nothing, but it's not life-changing money. You can't retire on it. You can't buy a house with it in most markets. You can't even really feel wealthy with it because one major emergency could wipe out a chunk of it. This is where most people quit. Not consciously, but gradually. They stop contributing as much. They start thinking maybe they should just enjoy their money now because this whole saving thing doesn't seem to be paying off fast enough. And I get it. 5 years is a long time to delay gratification for what feels like a modest result. But here's what's happening that you can't see yet. During those first 5 years, compound interest has been working, but its effects are almost invisible because the numbers are still small. When you have $10,000 invested and it grows 8% in a year, you make $800. That's nice, but it's not exciting. It's literally the same amount you're contributing every month anyway. The market gave you 1 free month. Big deal. When you hit year 7 or 8 and you're sitting at around $90,000, something interesting starts to happen. But it's subtle enough that most people still don't notice it. That $90,000, growing at 8%, generates $7,200 in a single year. That's almost as much as you're contributing in 8 months. The money is starting to work, but you're still doing most of the heavy lifting. And then you cross 100,000. And this is where everything changes, even though it doesn't feel that different at first. That first 100,000 took you roughly 10 years of consistent saving. 10 years. A decade of your life. And at the end of it, you have 100 grand, which sounds impressive until you remember that you personally contributed 96,000 of it. The market only gave you about $4,000 over that entire decade. You're basically a highly disciplined saver with a very small bonus from compound interest. So yeah, Charlie Munger was absolutely right. The first 100,000 is a bitch. It requires discipline you didn't know you had. It requires delayed gratification that feels endless. It requires you to believe in a future payoff that you can't see or feel yet. Most people don't have that level of discipline or faith. which is exactly why most people never build wealth. But here's what Charlie Munger knew that most people never learn because they quit before experiencing it. After that first brutal 100,000, the math fundamentally changes. Not a little bit, dramatically. Because now, for the first time in your financial life, you have enough capital for compound interest to become a meaningful contributor instead of just a theoretical concept you read about. Let me show you exactly what happens after you cross that $100,000 threshold, because once you see these numbers, you'll understand why wealthy people talk about compound interest like it's magic. You're still saving the same $800 a month. Nothing about your behavior has changed. But now you've got a $100,000 base. In year 11, that $100,000 grows by $8,000 while you contribute $9,600. For the first time, the market is contributing almost as much as you are. You're no longer alone in this. You've got a partner now, and that partner is starting to pull its weight. By year 13, you hit $200,000. Wait, let's pause there for a second. It took you 10 years to get your first $100,000. It took you 3 years to get your second $100,000. You didn't change your savings rate, you didn't get a massive raise, you didn't win the lottery. The only thing that changed is you finally had enough money for compound interest to matter. Let me break down why this happens in a way that makes the math obvious. When you're going from 0 to 100,000, compound interest is generating small amounts because the base is small. Your first year, you invest about $10,000, and it grows to $10,800. The market gave you $800. Nice, but not life-changing. But when you're going from 100,000 to 200,000, the dynamics are completely different. At the start of year 11, you've got 100,000 invested. That 100,000 generates $8,000 in growth. Meanwhile, you're still contributing your $9,600 for the year. Your total account goes up by $17,600 in a single year. Do you see what just happened? The market contributed almost as much as you did. For the first time in your entire financial journey, you're not doing all the work. And this is just the beginning. By year 15, you're at $300,000. That third $100,000 only took you 2 more years. The acceleration is real, and it's getting faster. At $300,000, an 8% annual return is $24,000. You're contributing $9,600. The market is now contributing more than double what you are. Your money is officially working harder than you are. Let's keep going because this is where it gets absolutely wild. Year 18, you hit $500,000. Year 21, you cross $750,000. And by year 25, 15 years after you hit that first brutal $100,000, you're sitting at over $1.2 million. Let's put that in perspective. The first $100,000 took you 10 years. The next million took you 15 years. But here's the really mind-blowing part. Of that $1 million you accumulated after the first $100,000, you only personally contributed about $170,000 of it. The other $830,000? That was compound interest doing all the work. That was your money making money. That was you finally getting paid for those 10 brutal years you spent building your foundation. Now I know what you're thinking. Ryan, 10 years sounds like forever. How am I supposed to stay motivated for an entire decade when the payoff feels so distant? This is a legitimate problem, and it's why I want to give you a psychological framework that makes the journey manageable instead of soul-crushing. Stop thinking about the goal as $100,000. That number is too big and too far away. Instead, break it into 4 checkpoints of $25,000 each. $25,000 is achievable, it's concrete, and most importantly, each checkpoint feels different and gives you a psychological win to keep you going. Checkpoint 1, 0 to $25,000, is the hardest because you have 0 momentum and 0 validation that any of this is working. This is pure faith. You're saving $800 a month and it's taking you about 2.5 years just to hit 25 grand. This phase requires the most discipline because you can't see any results yet. My advice for this phase? Automate everything and try not to look at your account too often. The more you check it, the more frustrated you'll get at how slowly it's growing. Checkpoint 2, 25 to 50,000, is where you start to feel something. You've proven you can do this. You've built a habit. The numbers are getting substantial enough that you feel like you're actually building something. This phase takes about 2 years if you're consistent. The psychological shift here is huge, because you're no longer wondering if you can save money. You've already done it. Now you're just doing it again. Checkpoint 3, 50 to 75,000, is where compound interest starts becoming visible. You're not just saving anymore. You're watching your money grow from 2 sources now, your contributions and market returns. This phase takes about 18 months. You'll start noticing that some months your account goes up by more than you contributed. That's compound interest saying hello. It's small, but it's there, and it's encouraging. Checkpoint 4, 75 to 100,000 is the home stretch. This is the fastest of the 4 phases, taking about 15 months. Why? Because now you've got momentum. You've got 75,000 working for you. The market is contributing meaningful amounts. You can see the finish line. This is where a lot of people actually increase their savings rate because they're so close to the magic number. Each of these checkpoints deserves a small celebration. Not a financial celebration where you blow money you should be saving. I'm talking about acknowledging the win. Tell someone you trust about hitting 25,000. Take yourself out for a nice dinner when you hit 50. Do something to mark the milestone, because these psychological wins are what keep you going through the hard parts. Let me show you what this looks like with actual numbers over time, because seeing the full picture is what makes the grind worth it. Year 1, you save $800 a month, contribute $9,600 for the year, and with an 8% return, you end with about $10,400. The market gave you $800. Not exciting. Year 5, you've contributed $48,000 total, and with compound growth, your account is at $63,000. The market has given you about $15,000 over 5 years. That's $3,000 a year on average, still not changing your life. Year 10, the magic milestone. You've contributed $96,000 personally. Your account is at $146,000. The market has contributed $50,000 over the decade. You hit your first $100,000 somewhere around month 115. Now watch what happens next. Year 13, 3 years later. You've only contributed an additional $28,000 from your own pocket, but your account is now at $210,000. In those 3 years, the market contributed $36,000. The market gave you more than you contributed for the first time ever. Year 15, just 2 more years, you're at $300,000. You added $19,000 from your savings. The market added $71,000. Do you see the flip? You're no longer the primary driver of your account growth. The market is. Year 20, you're at $550,000. Year 25, you're at $1.1 million. And here's the kicker. Of that $1.1 million, you personally only saved $240,000 over 25 years. Everything else, $860,000, came from compound interest. But let's compare this to someone who gives up at year 7 when they've only got $70,000 saved. They think the grind isn't worth it. They think they'll never get to meaningful wealth at this pace. So they stop contributing aggressively. Maybe they keep the $70,000 invested, but they stop adding to it consistently. That $70,000, left alone to grow at 8% with no additional contributions, will be worth about $500,000 in 30 years. That's not bad. But if they had just stuck with it for 3 more years to hit $100,000 and then continued contributing, they'd have over $2 million in that same 30-year period. The person who quit at $70,000 ends up with $500,000. The person who persisted to $100,000 and beyond ends up with $2 million. Same starting point, same market returns, but a 400% difference in outcome. That's the cost of giving up right before the math starts working in your favor. Let's address the objections, because I know you've got them, and they're all valid concerns that deserve real answers. Ryan, I can't save $800 a month. I'm barely getting by as it is. Fair enough. Then don't save $800. Save $400 or $300 or whatever you can actually sustain. The timeline stretches out, but the principle stays the same. Your first $100,000 will take longer, maybe 15 years instead of 10. But after that, the compound acceleration still happens. The math doesn't care if you're contributing $800 or $300. It cares about consistency and time. What if the market crashes right after I hit $100,000? Then your account drops to $75,000 and you keep contributing through the downturn. History shows the market always recovers, and the people who keep buying during crashes end up ahead. The worst thing you can do is panic and stop contributing when everything is on sale. Your first 100,000 is meant to be a long-term foundation, not money you'll need next year. I'm already 35. Is it too late for this to work? No, but your timeline is compressed. If you start at 35 and hit your first 100,000 at 45, you've still got 20 years until traditional retirement age for the compound magic to happen. By 65, you could still have over $1 million. It's not too late, but it is urgent. The later you start, the less you can afford to waste time. What if I need the money before I hit 100,000? This is why you have an emergency fund separate from your investment account. Your first 10,000 should probably be in a high-yield savings account for true emergencies. After that, you can be more aggressive with your investments. But if you're constantly rating your investment account for non-emergencies, you'll never hit any of these milestones. You need to protect this money like your future depends on it, because it does. So here's what you need to do. If you haven't started, start today. Not next month, not after you get a raise, today. Open a Roth IRA or increase your 401k contribution by even $50 a month. Something is infinitely better than nothing. And nothing is exactly what you'll have if you keep waiting for the perfect moment to begin. If you're already on the path, but you're somewhere between 0 and 100,000 feeling discouraged, I need you to understand something. You're in the hardest part right now. The part where discipline matters more than results. The part where you have to believe in future you, even though present you isn't seeing the payoff yet. But every dollar you save now is a dollar that gets to compound for decades. Every month you stay consistent is a month closer to the point where money starts working harder than you do. And if you're close to that 100,000 mark, if you're at 70 or 80 or 90,000, and you're exhausted from the grind, do not quit now. You're about to cross the threshold where everything changes. You're about to experience firsthand what Charlie Munger was talking about. That first 100,000 is a bitch, but you're almost through it. The wealthy people who talk about compound interest like it's magic aren't lying to you. They're telling you about something they experienced after they crossed that $100,000 threshold. But you'll never experience it if you quit at 60,000 because it feels like it's taking too long. This isn't about getting rich quick. This isn't about some secret investment strategy that beats the market. This is about being disciplined enough to reach the point where math takes over and does most of the work for you. Your first 100,000 proves you have that discipline. Everything after that is just math rewarding you for showing up. Subscribe to I Hate Finance if you want more truth about building wealth instead of get-rich-quick fantasies. Hit the like button if you're committed to grinding through that first brutal 100,000. And go check your investment account right now. Not to stress about how far you have to go, but to acknowledge how far you've already come. Because every dollar in there is proof that you're doing something most people never do. You're building a foundation that's going to change your life, even if you can't see it yet. Now go automate your contributions and stop checking your balance every day. You've got a decade of discipline ahead of you, and it's going to be worth every sacrifice you make.